Welcome to the podcast, Becchara Palmer. It is fantastic to have you here on the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
You are a person who has achieved a lot to date. You have an extraordinary sporting prowess. Would you like to tell us more about what you've achieved?
Sure. I played beach volleyball professionally for about 18 years. I started playing in high school and then it became my full-time thing when I left school. So I and my partner at the time, Alice Rocamper, were the first Australian junior team to win a junior world championship, which was pretty cool. Since there have been other young Aussies who have done it, which is also really cool. I went to the London Olympics. I had a crack at a couple more Olympics, but we didn't quite get there, unfortunately. What else have I achieved? I now have my own business. I have a beautiful little son and lovely little family. I feel like that's the cliff notes. That's what comes to mind straight away.
The cliff notes are good. Cliff notes are good. So you're an Olympian, and that's a huge endeavour and achievement. And one of the things that we're going to talk about today is self-leadership. How old were you when you went to the London Olympics?
I was 23, and to look back now, such a baby. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I was 23. We started the Olympic qualification process 18 months prior. So a very young, early 20-something girl taking off on the world. We had trips where we were 3 months away, playing in tournaments every week or having a training camp pretty much weekly. And I guess the challenge being to qualify for the Olympics, which meant we had to get 8 really good results in that time, playing against the world's best teams week in, week out. As you can imagine, it was a pretty stressful and pretty challenging time in a lot of ways. And yeah, I think that self-leadership, by no means do I think I had it figured out then. Maybe the process would have been a little bit easier had I put my 36, 37-year-old brain into that body. I think life would have been a little bit easier. But that self-leadership definitely was required then. And I think I learnt a lot about it in that time. And then obviously since then playing and running my own business. But yeah, it was a wild time. And I would be lying if I said I had really clear, vivid memories of that period of time. I think the stress and the bigness of the whole thing left some pretty big gaps in my recollection and in my memory, which is such a bummer because I'd love to be able to remember it all clearly. But it was a big time.
It would have been a big time. What did it? Now that you think back on it, and with the benefit of hindsight, and it is a beautiful thing, hindsight. But with the benefit of hindsight, what do you wish you knew more about self-leadership then, or
I think with hindsight, I wish I had trusted myself more. I think had I trusted my gut instinct and my initial instinct, I think I would have felt more comfortable to speak up and to be heard. I think that's something that really disappeared in the stress and the bigness and just the environment in general. It's unless you're being loud and making a lot of noise, there's probably someone else who is doing that and being front and center. And I think I slipped into a bit more of a passive role. And in some ways that worked. And then in other ways for myself personally, there was definitely a trade-off for me. So yeah, I wish I had trusted that gut instinct a little bit more. I wish I'd felt a little bit more ownership, I guess, as opposed to feeling like just on the train and trying to hold on and trying to just keep going and keep up. I think that would have perhaps helped me feel a bit more grounded and a bit more present in what was happening and able to sort of access some more of my grit, I guess, or some more of my strengths.
But clearly you had quite a few going for you at the time because you did well. I mean, you're in the Olympics, so there's something going on there. What is self-leadership to you? What does that mean for you?
To me, I think it's a drive. It's like an internal, it's like the little diesel engine that is just inside of you, whether it's in your gut or your heart or wherever you would place it. But it's It's that thing that keeps you going despite everything else that's going on around you. And whether it's because of a greater purpose or I guess a greater need or desire for some sort of outcome or some sort of process or whatever it is, that to me is that internal drive. And I think everyone has it. And I think the trick sometimes could be in what it is that you find that brings it alive in you. Like, are you able to find something that really triggers that internal leadership, that internal drive in you that makes you get up at silly o'clock in the morning to do what you need to do, or have the hard conversations that you know so much about, or do the thing that you maybe don't want to do but you know it's the right thing to do. That's hard, I think, without a really compelling reason.
How did you find your reason?
That's a good question. I would say in some ways I'm still searching for it. Like, I think within volleyball and within sport, I think I found it to a degree. So after London and after that cycle, there was this real desire in me to do it my own way. They were the words that I wanted to use. And I had felt like I'd sort of been on this train that was going, but I didn't necessarily feel like I had a lot of say. And look, we got there anyway. So it was a good train to be on. I'm not saying that the train was wrong by any means, but I had this really strong desire to feel like I was in the driver's seat, that I was making it happen. And in some ways, I was able to scratch that itch. So for the Tokyo cycle, which was sort of the COVID cycle, myself and Nikki Laird, one of the other athletes, we both had a similar thing where we wanted to really drive the ship ourselves. She'd been to the Rio Olympics, I'd been to London. We both had this sort of experience and felt like we could go. And we found a coach in Margot Wiltons, who is now a really good friend of mine. And she also was like, great, if you guys are going to steer this ship, like, she jumped on board, and the three of us became the three strong-willed women. That was the name of our WhatsApp chat. So you can imagine the dynamic between the three of us. It worked really well. It wasn't always perfect, but it worked really well. And in that process, so we went through a good 2-year process of steering the ship ourselves and making decisions about what we played and how we played it and where we would go. And we had to raise a lot of money for ourselves because the national body had all their teams set and we were outside of that. So we had to kind of do this whole thing ourselves. And in a lot of ways, that process, like that Olympic cycle and that process, because we didn't qualify, we ended up losing at a qualifying event in Thailand. I sat back and I looked at that, and my sense of satisfaction and my sense of, like, I could smile after the initial heartbreak of the whole thing. I could smile and go, I can't believe we did that. Like, every single day I rocked up and I was jazzed to be there and I was excited about the purpose that we had as a team. And that was different to the London cycle. So the process in the London cycle I found really hard, but we qualified and we went to the Olympics, and I now call myself an Olympian. The Tokyo cycle was the exact opposite. And yet the level of satisfaction that I had felt so different. So in some ways that I guess the process for me became a priority as opposed to necessarily just an outcome at the end.
Yeah.
So that, whatever the outcome is, I realized is maybe not the most important bit.
No.
You get that for like a day, whereas the process took 2 years. So I'm like, I'd prefer to have a happy 2 years than a happy day at the end.
Absolutely. But also, so thinking, sort of unpacking that experience, you had agency in the second process where you had felt more purpose and drive.
Yeah. And I think beach volleyball is an interesting sport where you have two players on the court and your coach can't coach you. So they're sitting in the stands, madly scribbling notes and recording the game and thinking of all the things they're going to tell you afterwards, but they can't actually say anything to you in the game. And what I found, that agency and that decision-making in the process meant that in the thick of a game, I also had agency and I also had this ability to make decisions, because I wasn't switching it on and off between being on the court and being off the court. It was the same the whole time. And I think in that way, it made me a better volleyballer in that sense, in terms of being more present and aware of what's happening and hopefully making better decisions because of it, which I think is for young athletes and young volleyballers in particular, that to me is the skill that stands out between athletes that are good and then athletes that are great.
Yeah.
is their ability to look after themselves first and foremost on court, and then bring their partner along with them as well. That's the kind of self-leadership that then turns into team leadership that, yeah, I think is a really important part of being a good athlete.
Yeah. And I'm wondering if we were to apply this to the workplace, having had a conversation this morning, which is a common conversation I have, which is about somebody who's perceived to be underperforming. And part of their underperformance is that they are constantly going and getting approval for the work they're doing, just checking. And I think it's so interesting because I think we often think everybody's full of all the same people. Like we're not robotic, and we're all these different people, but we also bring different levels of maturity and self-confidence and all of those things to those moments. And so it takes a level of self-confidence to be able to seize the agency that you had on the court or in those moments as well.
Mm.
Does that resonate with you?
Yeah, it does. And I think that confidence came through those experiences. Like as much as I say that Olympic cycle was really hard, it was. And then coming out the other side, knowing that I got through that and being able to look back on it to see all the good bits as opposed to just the hard bits, that contributes to the confidence. And I think having people around us who were really like so believed in us, like that was the great thing with Margot, our coach, was that she believed in me and she knew all my experiences were serving me really well, and she trusted that I would make good decisions and that I would do the right thing. There was no micromanagement. There was none of that. She's like, I know why you're here and I know what you want to achieve. And she added her expertise in terms of strategy and our training and the way that our loads and all that sort of stuff that I couldn't give two rats about.
Mm-hmm.
She brought that in, and then she also trusted Nikki and the way that Nikki went about it and why she was there. So having that external trust makes it really easy to trust. Well, for me, it made it really easy to trust myself. So I think there's a lot to be said for a manager or a leader instilling that faith in the people that they work with and kind of almost allowing them to step into that. Maybe it's giving them that trust before they've earned it, or purely because that's the right thing to do, and to believe them and to trust that they're going to do the right thing gives them the space to do that.
Yeah.
I think
There's something in that which resonates very strongly with me, which is believing people, believing in them and believing them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because a lot of the work that I do in conflict is about believing people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's extraordinary how when you believe people and they tell you that they're a good person and how that helps them then process and move to the next level. Like when we don't believe people or believe in people, chances are you've got to then sort of act up or act differently. You've got to somehow keep showing. Whereas if we trust each other, chances are we're going to get better outcomes anyway.
Absolutely. And I think that there, as with probably most people, there's a lot of examples of people who don't believe you or believe in you or believe in the best in you or whatever that is. And I felt that through Margot, was this unwavering belief.
Yeah.
And it changed something in me to be on the receiving end of that. I was like, oh, I don't have to convince you. I don't have to try and make you see that I'm here for the right reasons and that I'm committed or that I'm X, Y, and Z. You know that. Like, you believe it and you know it. And it, in a lot of ways, just like took so much weight off and gave me, I guess, the space to go and do stuff that actually matters and could move the needle for what we were trying to achieve, as opposed to trying to win the approval or prove something or, it was, I realized in the past how much brain space has perhaps been wasted trying to do all those things, as opposed to being like, screw it. I know I'm here for the right reasons. You know I'm here for the right reasons. Great. End of conversation. Let's move on and do something that's helpful.
Reasons. And were your reasons the same as setting a goal? Is that different or the same?
I had this thought, and I remember speaking about it to my coaches at the time, who I think thought I was a bit mad, which is okay. Maybe I was. But I remember having this clear as day thought that and it's a little bit woo-woo, but volleyball was my avenue, or was my thing for learning about myself and learning about the world. And I was given this gift that I was good at playing volleyball, and I was given the opportunity, and that was my vehicle. So that to me was like, okay, well, I throw myself in wholeheartedly, and whatever I have to, whatever I'm going to learn, or wherever I'm going to go with this is the right way to go. So I think feeling like I was in the right place kind of felt like my purpose. Like I thought a few times about going somewhere else and doing something else, and I always came back. So I was like, no, this is where I need to be.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the Olympics was always something that I wanted. I wanted to be able to call myself an Olympian. So that definitely drove me, but I think it also scared me as well. Like I think because I wanted that, I was so willing to hand it over to someone else who knew better.
Okay.
Is an interesting one because, I think that to me doesn't feel like a great goal when I'm stepping away. Maybe it's like a mistrust thing in myself of like, well, I actually don't know if I'm good enough to get myself there. So I'll just do what you tell me because I really want that and you seem to know how to get there. So we'll just do what you say. That is obviously not sustainable. And I think that's where that collateral kind of I don't want to say damage, but that collateral pain and hurt and hardness of it kind of comes in. So I feel like goal setting for the sake of one goal at the end of a tunnel to me feels really limiting. I feel like there's so many great outcomes that can happen that we can't even conceive at the beginning of the road, that setting a goal that says I want to go and win an Olympic gold medal forgoes all of the other incredible things that could happen on the way.
Yeah.
Which is what I really loved about the Tokyo cycle for Nikki and I, is that we wanted to play great volleyball. We wanted to have full ownership of what we were doing. We wanted to get to the end no matter what happened and know that we were proud of ourselves and proud of what we'd done. And if that meant qualifying, sweet. We weren't going to say no. But if it didn't, we still wanted to be able to say that. And I think that we achieved that.
And I love that, because the first scenario of handing over, I want to get to the Olympics and it's big, so I'm going to hand over that to you, who knows better, and that lack of trust in self in that moment. And I get that you're young, and it's sort of like, well, you must know more than me because you're older than me and you've got more life experience.
And they've done it before.
Then taking that back and driving that yourself. That's fantastic. So in self-leadership, when you were doing the first lot of Olympics, the getting up at stupid o'clock or whatever you did, what drove you then? Were you truly motivated, or was it, this is the expectation of me? Was there resentment? Like, what did it feel like?
Yeah, definitely an expectation.
Yeah.
And I think in some ways a responsibility to my team, my teammate, my coaches, and I think also a responsibility to my family. Like I think about from when I started playing at 15 through to when we qualified, that period of time there was almost completely bankrolled by mum and dad. And they were just as invested in me qualifying for the Olympics as what anyone was.
Yes.
So there was definitely a responsibility of being like, all right, I'm the horse that everyone has backed. So the weight of the world basically is here. And as as heavy as that feels, it's motivating, for want of a better word. Like I didn't want to be the one that ruined it for everyone else. So that was probably the defining motivation.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you did it for yourself, the Japan trip, that was the motivation's different then.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would probably say it was still felt like a responsibility. There was still a responsibility to perform, but it was far more like elevating. Like I was inspired to perform, or I felt inspired. I felt inspired by our team and what we were trying to achieve. Like I think the connection that we had between us was really quite incredible and really unique. And I wanted to, there was, I think, a part of us, as 3 strong-willed women, there was definitely a part of us who wanted to, show the world what we could do. But that wasn't the driving force. The driving force for us was to show our best and be our best. And yeah, I don't want, the word is not quite right, but it was far more wholesome. Like it was, we're doing this because we love it and we love being in this team and we love playing volleyball, and everything else can just like get out of our bubble and it's just us, and let's go to war together and see what happens. Like that was sort of what it felt like.
So you could be truly present.
Yeah.
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 It wasn't for anyone else.
No, it was for us.
Yeah.
It was absolutely, it was for us. I think we smiled a lot more. We were lighter. It was a lot lighter because it was for us.
Yeah.
And that was so enjoyable. It was really enjoyable.
So now you're in business. How have you tapped into self-leadership in that space?
Yeah, so my marketing business is called Ease Digital, and I work with a few clients. Mm-hmm. You being one of my wonderful clients. And I think self-leadership, it's been a process because it's quite different. It's not getting up at silly o'clock in the morning to go to the gym or whatever. It's not eating a certain way. I've actually found I've had to teach myself this self-leadership in areas that I'm not that great at per se. Coming out of being an athlete and into business, I've had to teach myself some systems of like organization and keeping track of things so that I'm across all of my client work and I know I'm not missing anything. And I think also that like motivation to do some of the bits that I don't necessarily love doing, which is ironic because as a marketing business, I find marketing my own business really tricky. I'm like, I prefer to market someone else's because then I don't have to do it all for myself. So that self-leadership has come in different ways, but it's kind of that responsibility. I have a responsibility to myself, to my clients, to my family, to keep money coming in so that I can contribute into the family. But they're all responsibilities that I feel really enlivened by. Like I love the work that we do together with the Huddle. Yeah. And I love the work that I do with my other clients. And I love being creative within my business and being able to make things that are helpful for people and small businesses. So that motivation is a light, and I get to choose. And if there's something that is not jazzing me or I don't feel like my skills are best suited, then I say no and I send it off to someone else. Yeah. But I think all of those things have taken a little bit of time to learn. And I've definitely said yes to a whole bunch of things that in hindsight I've gone, I had no business doing that. And I said yes because I wanted the money or I needed the money or I wanted whatever it was. And it's a very clear difference when it's the right thing to do and when it's not the right thing to do. And internally I feel it. Yeah. So self-leadership now looks a little bit more like understanding what that feeling is. And I use my instinct or my gut feel to make pretty much every single decision in my own business, because mostly it's right. Like mostly it sends me in the right direction. If I'm left to my own devices to use my brain, I get sometimes a bit misled or misguided. So that self-leadership has looked like finding space to tap into my gut instinct and reminding myself to listen to it and trust it. That's the bulk of it these days.
I think your gut instinct's profound, but I also think, and this is something that has always impressed me so much about you in particular, is your calmness to take on whatever information is coming, is to just recognize that this is information and not take it personally, and then to sort of process that information. And it's like, well, how is this useful or how is this not useful, and all of those things. I think having met some other people who work in that, have played in the elite sports space, there's part of that self-leadership and learning self-leadership is there's a lot of information coming at you all the time and a lot of pressure. I mean, an enormous amount of pressure, and let alone family, but the rest of Australia or whatever, particularly when you're talking about, Olympics and the like. But your capacity to go, well, what is this piece of information? Tell me more about this piece of information. And is it helpful or is it not? And I think that's one of your great skills in self-leadership, is to be able to process, information that can be dressed up as fear, anger, a whole heap of things, and to be able to look on that with curiosity and not emotion. It's an extraordinary skill.
Thank you. The one thing I would, as you were talking then, I was sort of reflecting on that, being like, how do I do that? And the only thing that I can think of is I think I've gotten better at it because the decisions, like when I make a decision, I'm listening to that sort of gut instinct and I know I've made the right decision based on the information that I have. So in that moment, I wouldn't make a different decision because taken account of everything and gone, all right, this is the right decision to make. Even if in 10 minutes that then becomes the wrong decision because we now have new information, I'm like, well, I wouldn't change that because 10 minutes ago I knew that the decision I was making was the right one. So I think that helps because then if it turns out to be wrong, which sometimes it is, there's that level of generosity is not maybe the right word, but I can empathize and go, oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I stuffed that up. I thought it was the right one. It wasn't. Okay. Well,
so there's a lot of self-trust though. There's a lot of trust in just in your response to things, that your gut does process things quite well, quite quickly. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
But well, I can imagine that when you're, and I think about this with AFL football because that's one of my pet loves, but there's just so much pressure. There's pressure of the crowd and opinion and all of those things that are happening at any given time. And so if we don't trust our gut and we trust other voices or other people's emotion or whatever's going on for them, it can get very confusing and damaging.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as you were sort of saying that, my brain kind of went off to being back in that position, thinking about a footballer kicking goal or and I remember the one thing that we would spend a lot of time rehearsing and practicing was our reset. So in volleyball, for those who are not super familiar with it, every time you lose a point, you have to side out, which means you have to receive a serve. And that happens every time. So before you go to side out, you've lost the point before. So the reset happens when you go into side out, which is when you're standing there, you're waiting for the whistle, and basically you have to clear your mind of everything. So the last error that you made or the last two or the last three, you have to completely clear your mind so that you can focus on the ball that's coming towards you. Otherwise, you'll probably make another mistake and that'll pile on the thing that you need to reset from. So there's this real sense of like stopping the momentum or stopping one turning into two, turning into three. And I think it's that reset moment that we just drilled into ourselves so much that works in life as well.
I love that. I love that. I'm going to take that. Reset.
You can have it.
Reset.
It's all yours.
That's what you're doing. You're just, you're doing that in every aspect of your life. It's a reset. More information, reset.
Yeah. And then if there's something there that needs to be addressed at the end of the game, we then go, okay, why were we making all of those errors? Is there something deeper we need to figure out and understand? Yeah. But that's the point of having a catch up after the project or sitting down with a leader at, every 3 months to go, okay, what's working, what's not, what are we moving on from? Some things need to happen in the moment and other things don't. That's profound. That sounds like a good place to end our wonderful conversation. It is such a pleasure working with you, Becchara. You are such a joy and your calmness is a great gift to somebody who sometimes struggles with calmness. So thank you. Thank you. Thanks for having me. I've loved this chat. For two people who weren't sure what we were going to talk about, we really had a good chat. We nailed it.